lot of people drive when they shouldn't be driving. They get drowsy, they get sleepy, and it becomes a struggle on the road. And I'm sure you can relate, as I can relate, that it has all happened to us. I remember falling asleep once on the road and spinning around, and this big truck waiting right there on the other side for me to finish spinning. And it might have been you as well. Did you know that 60% of the people that drive actually get drowsy, and that 1,550 people die because they were drowsy when they were driving? There is huge, huge consequences, and it's happened to all of us. And you wonder sometimes, why do we even do that, or that we can get awake with it? And yet we risk ourselves and we risk others as well. And with me is a person that happened to, and she actually went down a ravine. Elizabeth Marshall, my beautiful sister-in-law that is with us today, that only 2 months ago broke her neck and came up into a situation that she never ever had dreamed of before. And here's the question for you. If you serve God, if you really worship God and make a difference like Elizabeth was doing, and then right after that, you drive off a ravine, is this God real, that He allows for you to get in such a bad situation? And I'm sure you will like the answer when you stay tuned in. Elizabeth, welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
2 months ago was a crazy, crazy moment. You fell asleep, and what happened next?
Yes, I was on my way back from a church event up at Trinity Baptist Church up in Arcata, where my brother Wes and I were singing some songs as part of an evangelist visit. And it wasn't even that late at night. We packed up the truck at about 9, and you would think that wouldn't be too difficult to drive from Arcata to Garberville, where I live. It is a 90-minute drive. But I started to get close to the house, and I could feel myself getting sleepy, but I said, oh, I know I can get just a little ways further. I was only about a quarter of a mile from the house, and then I opened my eyes, and I don't even remember my eyes closing, but I opened my eyes, and there was the front end of my truck going right over one of the worst falls on that part of the road, and there was just no time. I didn't have any moment to even say, Jesus, I'm coming, or anything. Then I went black, I blanked out. And
now
Shelley,
you tumbled twice, and
you more than twice.
Thrown out of the front window of the car.
Yes, we saw the police a little later, and he said that the truck was probably going all the way down. I have now no idea how many times it rolled before the Lord allowed me to get out that front window.
Now you're in a little more rural area. You go down the mountain, and then you get thrown out of the window. The car does not land on top of you.
Praise the Lord.
And then you wake up how? What was next?
Yes. So all I knew is that when I opened my eyes after the truck going off, I was shaking really hard, and I opened my eyes, and I could see the sky over me, and I realized, oh, I'm alive. And my hands went down to my lap, and on my lap was this emergency blanket. This emergency blanket was in my emergency kit. I hadn't zipped it in. It was just laying on top of the emergency kit in my truck. But the point is that the truck had continued to roll down, and there was all kinds of stuff in the truck. But no, it was the blanket, and God put it on my lap, right on my lap where it needed to be, so that when I woke up, all I had to do was kind of go like this and pull it up to my neck, and I was covered. And because that was the first thing that I woke up to, it was such a clear message to me that God was with me and comforting me. It was a rainy night, so the blanket not only warmed me, it stopped the shaking right away, but it kept the rain from soaking me, which would have been a cold night. That was September 23rd, so it was already getting cold with the rain. And having the blanket, that it was a covering from the Lord, was not lost on me. I could tell right away
So
that
you're
that was
trying to tell me that you get thrown out of a car and the blanket is perfectly laying in your lap when you wake up.
It might have even been folded. I mean, it still has the dirt on it from the berry bush. Apparently the truck had squished the berry bush first and then continued to roll, because it was like we pray for a hedge of protection. That bush was like a hedge of protection with the squashed part just for me. And so it meant that my body was elevated a little bit on this safety net, so I wasn't right on the ground. And my head was elevated from my legs. One of my injuries, it was brain trauma, head trauma. And so if I had been laying with my head the wrong direction, then that, the bleeding and the head trauma would have been probably fatal. But now God laid me out with my feet even straight out. I could see my feet and my straight body in my blanket. And then I started to reach around to see what else could be around me. And I found this, I had this next to me, and it was something I had picked up at Target for my niece, for your little granddaughter, Cece. And I go, oh, a pillow. So I put the pillow under, and I had the blanket over, and
Wow.
and God
here
kept
you
me
are.
comfortable.
You have a lunchbox for a pillow, a blanket, it's raining, and you're laying in blackberry bushes.
Yes.
Were you able to move?
And I was my hair, I had really long hair then that went down to almost towards the base of my back. And the hair was tangled into the berry bushes. And even though they weren't poking into me, I was stucky enough on the berry bushes. It was kind of like Velcro. And I knew, I could feel that I was stuck there enough that I couldn't really move. So
Now
it
you're out
made
there,
me be good.
You're laying in there in the blackberry bushes, and it is, what was your biggest fear? Because did you end up spending the night there? It was
Oh
pitch
yes,
black.
it was probably between it was about 10:30 at night when I had the accident, and I was not discovered until 9 a.m. the next morning. So I was there all night. I do have a mountain lion problem on the ranch. We're talking 7 miles west of Garberville, so it's out there in the hills. It's very rural, and it was down a steep hill. So being stuck and being injured, I couldn't crawl out, and I would have had to crawl a long distance. And so I knew that there could be mountain lions out there, but knowing that God had already covered me gave me a great deal of peace. And I thought, well, if God's already provided for me the blanket and the pillow, I think God's going to also keep the mountain lions away.
And did you know that it was raining that night?
Yes.
And, as little rain as we get in California, we
Yes.
would be saying, really? Okay, I'm hurt. I'm laying there. I'm in a blackberry bush and rain. But then later I found out that mountain lions don't like rain.
They
So
don't
it
like
was
to smell
God's
it.
provision.
Yes, it was. And I know that I was bleeding. I had a large laceration on my foot, and the target sack, there was a white target sack that this came in, and when I picked it up the next morning to wave it, hoping that a car might see me, I looked at it and it was covered with blood. So I know there were blood smells on me, which would normally draw in a mountain lion. But and like I said, I know that I have them out there. I've had people have to shoot at them not very far from that canyon.
Now, was that the longest night that you ever experienced in your life?
It was, I think that it would be one of the longest ones. I think something that compares is when you have children that are very, very sick and you're worried for them. But, God gave me such a sense of peace. One of the things that my brother Wes said when he came to see me at the hospital, once the ambulance got me up to the emergency room, is he said, I checked your makeup and your eyes didn't have mascara running down, so I knew you weren't crying. And I said, well, that's because, I didn't feel like I had a sense of peace that God was with me. And I'm so thankful for that because, like I said, there was no time to ask God to do anything different. Once the truck was cascading over that hill, it was a literal split second. And I'm so thankful that the same God I was worshiping an hour before at the church is the same God who covered me with a blanket, put a pillow next to me, arranged for my eventual rescue in the morning.
Now tell me about that rescue a little bit, because you used to pray for a little boy before he was even born named Colby.
Yes, little
And
Colby.
you prayed for him, and wasn't he the one that actually noticed you?
Yes, I'm so thankful for that, because when the sun did come up in the morning, I knew there's only about 4, maybe 5 cars that go through that road per day. So I said to myself, I better really be on the ball and start waving that plastic sack as soon as I see any vehicle come by. And I had, like I said, that came in a white plastic sack, so I thought that should be something that's showy. And I laid in that bush and I waved it at the first car. And oh, it passed. And then another car came by and I waved it again. Oh no, nobody can see me. A black blanket, I had a black suit on. And then I saw a white car coming down, and it was my neighbor. I didn't recognize the car. That I had gotten myself hunched up a little bit so I could be a little higher. And all I could do is kind of flop my arms. And she passed, but then praise the Lord, she started to back up, and I heard her voice say, "Elizabeth, is that you?" As it turned out, her little boy Colby was in the back seat, 5 years old, being taken to school, and he had said, "Mom, there's a lady down there." Wow. And you are absolutely right. He's a little boy that I had prayed for 5 years ago, knowing that he was going to be born, and it's either I was worried for his birth in some way, or just felt a concern that this child, which is a neighbor, was going to be born. So he was in my prayers.
And he was there.
And he came back into my life just when I needed him.
You know, God really provided for Elizabeth, and God will provide for you too. Whatever that needs is, whatever the pain is that you're dealing with, God is there for you. And what happened next to her is actually quite amazing, because the miracles, one after another, did not stop there. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I would encourage you to get involved with Love Your Life Ministries by attending a conference, a meeting that we have once a month, every month. The next one will be in January, and to see how different women have gone through different journeys and struggles in their life, and be encouraged that you can change and be loved.
Elizabeth, the little boy Colby finds you. Yes. You're on your way to the hospital. You get to Eureka. Then what?
Then, well, actually, they took me to the ER. The ambulance took me to the ER in Fortuna, which is just south of Eureka. And I'm so thankful that upon arrival at the emergency room there, they could see all the head trauma. I had the bleeding in the brain, and some serious head trauma, so they made the decision to have me sent to the trauma center down in Santa Rosa at Memorial Hospital. And I'm so thankful for that, because when I got there, there was more opportunity for me to see you. Barbara came and ministered to me quite a bit while I was in the hospital, pulling blackberries out of my hair.
Well, it was amazing, Elizabeth, because I'm there. I walk in, and your mom was there caring, worried about you, and your dad, of course. And I walk in, and I did not recognize you. It was like, who is it? Oh, that's her. You scared us. You scared us bad. And here you're laying on that board. You have a hole in your head. You have a broken neck. Yes. And then they change you to ICU, and you sleep and you sleep and you sleep more. And we pulled blackberry bushes out of your hair for the next 3 days. Now, what was it like to be in that kind of a shock during that time? Did you feel God's presence at all?
Yes, I did very much. And you know, it's I could see so much how God was showing me His presence through the love of people who came to minister to me, through the EMTs who showed up through family. I remember that first few days, I can barely remember because of the brain damage, but I can remember scenes. And one scene I remember is when your husband Ken got to the hospital, and he just held my hand, and all I could really do was throw up at that point. And he held my hand while I was throwing up, and then just prayed for me, and he wept and prayed for me. And I could see God's love in that. I could see God's love in so many of the nurses and in the way that people ministered to me. And God provided that my roommate, once I was transferred from the main part of the hospital to the rehab part of the hospital, my roommate was a Christian woman in her 80s, and she had all these Christian children that would come and visit her, and I could hear their testimonies one to another, and it was so uplifting to me. And I could just see God reminding me over and over again that, Elizabeth, I'm with you through this. Yes, it is a valley. It's kind of funny because literally I crashed into a valley or a crevice, but it just like it says in the 23rd Psalm that He'll be with us in those valleys. Surely I will walk with you through the valley of the shadow of death. And that should have been a shadow of death for me. I was almost dead, but He really is with me, and His rod and His staff, His presence comforted me over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's just amazing how God works in that. And then
Yes.
just wondering, you ended up in rehab after that as well. So it's been
Yes.
a long road to recovery.
Yes.
What was the hardest part in all of this for you?
Well, it's a mixed thing. It's been a hard lesson for me to learn how to be on the receiving end. I'm very independent, and I'm used to wanting to do everything myself. But what I've learned is that it's such a blessing also to receive, and it's such a marvelous way to see God's love displayed in your family of God. My friend Peggy came up and stayed with me at the ranch for 2 weeks, taking care of me, picking up things when I would drop them. My friend Sandy came after her and has been staying with me. This is the first time I can ever remember where I was literally dependent on mercy and caring and love from other people. And because of the family of God that surrounds me, I could see it over and over again. Never did they complain. They were just loving. I could see Jesus' love in action through people like you, through my parents, through my brothers coming to work with me, through my friends at church, my brothers and sisters in the Lord, and even through little children who made cards and sent them to me at the hospital. That's Jesus' love in action being acted out.
So if somebody would be asking to you right now, God, why did you allow this? What would your response be?
Well, a couple of things. Interestingly, the very last song I did the night of the accident for the evangelist event was "Have Thine Own Way, Lord." And that wasn't lost on me, that "Have Thine Own Way, Lord." I really want to be yielded to Him, no matter if the times are hard or if the times are easy. And I think that everything that you have that's hard can be turned into something beautiful from God. Like He says, beauty from ashes. He gave us beauty from ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that we might be trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that He might be glorified.
Wow. Talking about singing, you actually brought a song you wrote yourself. So I would love for you to sing that right now. If you could
okay.
what are you going to sing for us? What did you write?
This song I wrote a number of years ago. It's called, it's based on Psalm 121, and it actually has repeated in it the phrase, "Cover me," because when He covers me, His love illumines me. And though the ashes sting my eyes, I can walk through fire. It's kind of based on Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Could you sing that for us right now?
I'll give it a whirl. I will lift up mine eyes to the hills. Oh, where does my hope come? From Him, the one. He's the maker of the earth and the skies. Oh, that's where I lift up my eyes. 'Cause when you cover me, though the ashes sting my eyes, I can walk through fire. And though the heat is on, those flames won't harm the sun. And though the ashes sting my eyes, I can walk through fire. Yes, I will lift up mine eyes to the hills. Oh, where does my hope come? From Him, the one. He's the maker of the earth and the sky. Oh, that's why I lift up my eyes. 'Cause when you cover me, your love, it illumines Oh, take my hand and lead me through my time of need. And though the ashes sting my eyes, ooh, I can walk through fire. Lift up your eyes. Yes, He is there by your side. His arms are open wide. Won't you lift up your eyes?
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I would encourage you to get involved with Love Your Life Ministries by attending a conference, a meeting that we have once a month, every month. The next one will be in January, and to see how different women have gone through different journeys and struggles in their life, and be encouraged that you can change and be loved.
Wow, did you just hear that? Somebody that broke their neck just a little more than 2 months ago, that was found and spent the night outside, that was covered by God with a blanket, thrown out of a window, is singing in our show today. Miracle after miracle after miracle. Why? Because she always saw God's plan in it. She never gave up, and she trusted more in God as in her circumstances. And that is sometimes what you and I need to do as well. Now, Elizabeth, you can still sing. You are not paralyzed, even with the broken C2 in your neck. How do you feel?
Oh, I'm so thankful. I feel filled with thanks. And like I said, marvel. I just marvel at God's amazing faithfulness and power. Technicians and radiologists that knew my injuries are amazed. And people have stopped me in the post office and said, "Really, you broke your C2 and you can do that?" But that's God's power.
It's just amazing. And it says something in the Bible I want to talk about for a moment, because it's just amazing. By the way, if you notice what we're hearing in the studio right now, there is some rain. Praise God, because we need rain, and we're excited that you and I can be part of that. So, but to get back to our word here, is that there's a story in the Bible of somebody that got really, really badly hurt, was left there to die, was ignored by other people, and yet God was there. And I want to share that with you. And it's right here in Luke. There was a man that made some foolish mistakes, like not just driving drowsy, but went by himself down the road of Jericho. And as he's going down here on that road, it was a notorious road that was very dangerous, that you should not travel by yourself. In other words, it was a suicide mission. He gets beat up, he gets robbed, and he gets left to die. Two people that knew about God walked by him, could think it's afraid to get dirty, did not want to touch him, didn't want to get filthy, could have thought that could be another robbery or a setup, and leave the guy to die. But then there is a man that was despised, and that man showed up, and this is what it says. But a Samaritan who was on a journey came upon him, and when he saw him, he felt compassion. This is Jesus, folks. He felt compassion and came to him and bandaged up his wounds, pouring oil and wine on them. And he put him on his own beast and brought him to an inn and took care of him. Oil would clean out the wounds. Oil would soften it, and wine would clean out the wounds. And there you have. The next day, he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper and said, "Take care of him, and whatever more you spend, when I return, I will repay you." There are a lot of people that are hurt out there. Not everybody has the answer, has the results that Elizabeth had with her car accident. Not everybody is able to walk away from that. Not everybody is always as blessed as she was, you think, but there is more to that blessing. When God allows things in your life, emotionally, physically, or even spiritually, there is always a bigger blessing that will come out of that will be the result of that. And here for this man, it wasn't just the physical pain, but it was the spiritual pain. And God wants to pull the first aid kit out for you. He wants to not just bandage up your wounds, but He wants to say, here is my Bible. It will cover your wounds, as the song said. It will cover your pain. It will help you and it will strengthen you if you believe and trust in me, because I can help you. Through this, you can learn how to forgive when they don't deserve it. Through this, you can receive forgiveness when you don't deserve it. Through this, it shows God's love for you, and your wounds aren't just band-aided up, but they can heal through Christ from the inside out. The question is, do you want that? Are you able to say, like Elizabeth said, I can do all things, even if in the middle of the night, with mountain lions all around me, smelling blood, and God still protecting her during that rain? Call us. We want to help you. We want to encourage you. 855-836-1100. Or go to our website, barbtv.org. Now, Elizabeth, you have experienced that in all parts of your life. If you could give the viewer a piece of advice right now, our friends a piece of advice, when they go through a hard time, what would it be?
Turn to the Lord. Trust in God, no matter what things look like, no matter how hard things seem to feel. Trust in God, believe in Him, and love Him. And watch for amazing things to happen then.
Wow. And then, can you see any kind of benefit in what has happened to you?
Oh, yes. It's, my family has all grown so much closer. I think all of us have had our faith boosted. And it was a wonderful time for me to get to see my family come together to be able to support me. You got to be one of those people. God really has brought beauty out of the ashes.
And I have never seen any patient share love with that many doctors and nurses than you. Elizabeth, thank you for joining us at the show.
Oh, thank you.
Here's my book, Ransomed.
Oh, this is a great book. The viewers need to read this.
And that's for you too. If you would like to be encouraged, or if we can strengthen you, know that God has a bigger plan for you, and that pain could be gained in some way, someday for you, if you allow God to work with you. Call us, 855-836-1100, and just know that God will rain blessings on you too. Have a great day.